Hi humans, it's Zoe Lennon from Popo Bazan, and today we are continuing on with my little series where we are discussing a chapter of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie in 5 minutes or less. So, chapter 11, which if you saw my last video about avoiding arguments, chapter 11 is basically an extension of chapter 10. And the title of chapter 11 is A Sure Way of Making Enemies and How to Avoid It. The principle at the end of chapter 10, I've got it written down on my handy dandy cue card, is show respect for the other person's opinion. Never say you're wrong. So this really builds on what we talked about in the last chapter, which is just, you can't ever truly win an argument, because if you lose an argument, you lose the argument. But if you win the argument, while you may be winning the argument itself, you are putting yourself in a position where you have most likely fractured the relationship that you've had with the person that you've argued with in some way, shape, or another. Because nobody wants to feel like they've been belittled. Nobody wants to feel disrespected. Nobody wants to feel like somebody has come at them and told them that they are wrong. I've been in situations like that. I've been in situations where other people have felt like that. We've all been through that. But nobody likes to feel like they've been made to feel smaller than the other person, right? So, I have an example for a sure way of avoiding making enemies, because basically, again, you always have to show respect for the other person's opinion. And as much as you want to view somebody or view an interaction with somebody adversarially, it is really important and actually to your benefit to take a situation that can be very emotionally charged and very loaded, like an argument, pull it back, and then actually use it as a way to empathize with another person and build connection in a situation where otherwise you would likely have fractured your relationship with that person. So my example is anti-vaxxers versus pro-vaccine people, because that has been such a extremely polarized stance since COVID, obviously. So I'm in chemical engineering. Some of my professors, they lead vaccine research teams and stuff like that at my school. I am pro-vax. I believe in the efficacy of vaccines. I'm in chemical engineering. That's kind of part of what we do. So I also respect when people are anti-vax. And I've had multiple discussions with people who are anti-vax as somebody that is pro-vaccine, where we've been able to find middle ground and actually end up having a really productive conversation that has caused both of us to like each other as people more. And it didn't cause any form of I'm right, you're wrong, that level of combativeness, right? So I use empathy, obviously. And the first thing to remember when somebody is not pro vaccines, when it comes to stuff like that, is like, well, why? Right? And when it comes to COVID and the COVID vaccine and stuff, so many people did not understand why vaccines were important because of the fact that, they weren't explained properly. Everybody was like, COVID is not the bubonic plague. Why do we need vaccines? But the way that a lot of the health departments in Western countries explained the way the vaccines work, which was not at all. They just expected anyone, regardless of their educational background, to understand how a vaccine worked, which, again, I'm in chemical engineering. Obviously, I would have learned stuff like germ theory. If I was a mechanic, why would I know this? I don't know every single thing about how to fix and maintain my car because I take it to the mechanic. It is insulting to take somebody who has absolutely no understanding of germ theory, what a vaccine is, vaccine research, etc., and then speak to them as if they're either stupid for not understanding it or as if they should already know. It would be like talking to me about every single thing I need to know about my calipers. Why would I know that? And don't speak to me like I'm stupid because I don't know that, right? Secondly, a lot of people that are anti-vax were anti-vax because of the fact that they were like, well, normally vaccines have about like a 10-year development period before we start using them. Why am I required to trust when there's only been a year, less than a year of data? And like, obviously, yes, it's a global pandemic when we're talking about COVID, but still, like with my boobs, when I got my boobs done, one of the reasons that I was comfortable with having a major surgery done is the fact that boob jobs have been done for 50 years. So there's literally enough data that like demonstrates what the lifetime of implants in somebody else's body are. I probably wouldn't get my boobs done if this was year 2 of them doing it, because you need to have the actual amount of time to be able to truly trust that something that you're putting in your body is safe, right? So those are at least 2. And I can think of a lot of other reasons why people are anti-vax. And I say that as somebody that is very pro-vaccine. I say that as somebody that is extremely pro-vaccine. I always get my COVID boosters. I got my flu shots. But I respect why people would have a different opinion. I absolutely do. And you have to have that mindset when you are dealing with people, or you're going to insult them or offend them, or you're going to make them feel like you think that they're inferior to you, when in reality, most people don't just pull their opinions out of a hat at random, right? And just because somebody's opinion is different than yours, it doesn't make them stupid. It's really important to recognize that, because if you treat somebody who has a different opinion than you like they're stupid, they're going to think you're a douche, because like, why are you telling me that you're smarter than me, right? Anyway, I think we might have gone a little bit over 5 minutes, but I really had to explain that example. I hope that you guys enjoyed this chapter and my explanation of it as much as I enjoyed making this video. Thank you so much, and we're going to continue on with chapter 12 in the next video.